Later today, we will debate our Opposition Day motion related to tomorrow's budget. We've presented 3 basic requests we believe the Government of Ontario should meet, quite frankly, Speaker, at a bare minimum. One of those key asks is the government put forward a credible plan to balance the budget and pay down our debt. The Auditor General, the Financial Accountability Officer, and even the CBC said there are consequences to perpetual deficits and the $300 billion debt this government has amassed. We pay nearly $1 billion a month in interest, which is crowding out the key services. Speaker, we see it every day in our health care cuts. Speaker, the Premier scoffed at our other asks. Will she at least support this one?
Thank you.
Speaker, well, we have a plan. We have a credible plan, Mr. Speaker. The member opposite will see in the budget tomorrow that we are on track, and he knows, Mr. Speaker, that year after year we have overperformed on our deficit reduction targets, Mr. Speaker, and that we're on track.
The member from Bruce Greo and Sound come to order. I have now decided to move to warnings. I want to make sure that those that are talking over top of me hear it again. I'm moving to warnings. Carry on.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite knows full well that for 6 years in a row we have been eliminating the deficit. We are on target to eliminate it completely by 2017-18. But, Mr. Speaker, I will return to the fact that the three requests that the opposition party is putting forward are inconsistent, Mr. Speaker.
Answer.
You cannot increase health care, Mr. Speaker, beyond what we are already doing and lower electricity prices either through a subsidy or going back to coal and at the same time speed up the elimination of...
Thank you. Supplementary.
Back to the Premier. Speaker, nobody believes a word this government says anymore, and is it any wonder why? They claim to have a path to balance, but the confidential gas plant scandal documents we uncovered showed they have a multi-billion-dollar hole in that plan. In fact, the Financial Accountability Officer confirmed what was in those documents in his last report. And the fall economic statement showed, plain as day, that they're using the money from the sale of Hydro One to make the deficit appear smaller. My question is to the Premier. Will your budget be simply more word games and sleight of hand, or will you present a truly credible plan to balance the books?
Thank you, Premier.
Mr. Speaker, not only does the Financial Accountability Officer recognize in his scenarios that our government's return to balance is achievable, he also acknowledges that the government is on track when he made this statement to reach our 2015-16 deficit target of $8.5 billion, Mr. Speaker. He also acknowledges that we're taking a responsible approach to holding spending growth in order to meet our targets. So, Mr. Speaker, we are happy to have the scrutiny of the Financial Accountability Officer. We're happy to have the scrutiny of the opposition party, Mr. Speaker, but I would say to the opposition party and to the people of Ontario, we have to have a consistency in the debate. We have to have the opportunity to say, well, you know, if you're asking us to do more in terms of health care and increase spending beyond, because we continue to increase health care spending, but you're pushing for increased spending in health care, Mr. Speaker. If you want electricity prices to go down through a subsidy or returning to coal, we're not going to do that, and we have a plan to eliminate the deficit. So on all fronts, we have responses to what the opposition is asking, Mr. Speaker.
Final supplementary.
Back to the Premier. I had hoped the Premier would treat the concerns of families seriously, Speaker, but apparently that's not to be. They're not even concerned, Speaker, with the appearance of consulting with families anymore. They knew full well that the budget was written when all 3 parties toured the province on pre-budget consultations, Speaker. They knew that when they sent us out to work. Last week, the Finance Minister called our budget a fiscal fantasy. So apparently now, Speaker, it's a fantasy to ask for affordable hydro. Speaker, apparently adequate staffing in our hospitals is now a fantasy. How arrogant, Speaker, how out of touch has this government become? So my question is, will the Premier stop her doublespeak and begin to help Ontario?
The member will withdraw.
I withdraw, Speaker.
Finish your question.
Thank you, Speaker.
Premier.
Mr. Speaker, you know, we are very, very concerned with the needs of the people in this province, which is why, if we want to talk about the electricity sector, Mr. Speaker, we have put programs in place specifically to help people who are struggling to pay their bills, Mr. Speaker, to get some support. The Ontario Electricity Support Program, Mr. Speaker, is for low-income families and program. That is why it has been put in place, Mr. Speaker. We understand that we need to continue to invest in healthcare and increase funding. We have been doing that year over year, and we will continue to do that, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, at the same time, we recognize that eliminating the deficit is a part of our fiscal responsibility. That's why we have a plan to do that, Mr. Speaker. And the members opposite will see in the budget that we have taken responsible steps on all of those fronts, Mr. Speaker. I look forward, given that, I look forward to the support of our budget, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. New question. The Leader of the Third Party.